Something unprecedented is unfolding across America right now. Within the next 10 days, a massive atmospheric shift will impact every single person watching this. Are you prepared for what's coming? Here's what you need to know immediately. Temperature swings of up to 45 degrees Fahrenheit are about to sweep from coast to coast. That's not a typo. 45 degrees. In some areas, we're talking about changes happening in less than 72 hours. But here's the part nobody's talking about. This isn't just another weather pattern. This is a complete atmospheric revolution happening in real time. And by minute 3 of this update, you'll understand exactly why your 10-day forecast is about to look completely different than what you're seeing right now. Let me show you something critical. Right this moment, over the Northeast, temperatures are running 28 degrees below average. 28 degrees. Families are burning through heating fuel at rates we haven't seen in years. But here's the twist that's about to change everything. A massive warm ridge is building, not a small one. We're talking about a ridge so powerful, it's going to push temperatures 65 degrees above freezing in areas that are currently in the teens. That's the power of God's creation at work, folks. The same divine hand that calms the storms can also shift entire weather patterns across a continent. Now, at the 30-second mark, I promised you something important. Here it is. By minute 5, I'm going to reveal the exact timeline when this pattern flip hits your region, not approximate, exact. And I'll show you 3 specific things you need to do before it arrives. But first, understand this. We're tracking 3 major ensemble models right now: the European model, the GFS model, and the AI-enhanced forecasts. Each one is telling a slightly different story, but they all agree on one thing. The mid-month pattern change is locked in. Let's talk numbers. The ridge building over the eastern United States is measuring over 5,700 meters in height. For context, that's nearly 19,000 feet of high pressure. When you see heights like that, you're looking at temperatures that could spike 40 to 50 degrees above normal in some locations. Here's where God's perfect design becomes crystal clear. While Alaska has been experiencing temperatures 45 to 55 degrees below average all winter, that cold air has been stored up there like a reservoir. Now, as this ridge builds and pushes east, that Arctic air is getting ready to spill southward. But not yet. First comes the warmth. The storm track is shifting. Right now, moisture is streaming across the southern United States. We're measuring atmospheric rivers, carrying water vapor equivalent to 15 Mississippi rivers. 15. That's the kind of moisture transport that can bring beneficial rains to areas desperately needing it. Between now and tomorrow night, 1 to 2 inches of rain will fall from Birmingham to Atlanta to Columbia. That's answer to prayers for regions dealing with drought conditions. As it says in His Word, He sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. This moisture is a blessing for farmland that's been parched. But here's the conflict emerging. While the South gets rain, the Great Lakes region is being absolutely buried. Lake Ontario is producing snow bands that are dropping 2 feet of accumulation, not over a week, in 48 hours. Some areas near Fulton and Pulaski are measuring 24 inches and counting. The lake effect machine is running at maximum capacity because of a 42-degree temperature difference between the lake water and the air above it. That's massive. When you have that kind of temperature gradient, the atmosphere becomes a snow factory. Now, pay attention to this next part. It's critical to understanding what's coming at mid-month. The jet stream pattern that's been locked in place for 3 weeks is about to unlock. Think of it like a dam about to break. All that pent-up energy has to go somewhere. Western United States. You're about to see a dramatic shift. A deep trough is digging in. This trough will bring temperatures 15 to 25 degrees below average. But here's the remarkable part. At the exact same time, the eastern half of the country sees temperatures 20 to 35 degrees above average. This is what meteorologists call a strongly amplified pattern. But I call it evidence of divine complexity. The same God who numbers every hair on your head orchestrates atmospheric patterns across an entire continent. Nothing is random. Everything has purpose. Let me show you something that'll blow your mind. The ridge extending over eastern North America isn't just covering the lower 48 states. It's reaching all the way up through eastern Canada and into Greenland. We're talking about a high-pressure dome covering over 4 million square miles. 4 million. Here's your first reward point. Remember this. When high pressure extends into Greenland, it creates what's called a negative North Atlantic oscillation. Write this down. Negative NAO. Because in 10 days, that's going to be the key to everything that happens next. But before we get to minute 5, where I reveal your specific timeline, let's talk about what's happening right now at ground level. Across Louisiana and Texas, temperatures are pushing into the low 80s, 80 degrees in early January. Meanwhile, just 600 miles north, temperatures are in the teens. That's a 70-degree gradient across 600 miles. To put that in perspective, that's a temperature change of 1 degree every 8.5 miles. When you have gradients that tight, the atmosphere becomes unstable, explosive, even. The question everyone's asking is this: when does the pattern flip? When does winter return? Here's what the models are showing, and this is where faith meets science. All 3 major forecast systems agree. Between January 9th and January 14th, everything changes. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Before that pattern flip, there's a brief window. A storm system is trying to develop right in the middle of that warm ridge. It's what we call an embedded short wave. Think of it as a speed bump in the middle of a smooth highway. This could bring a quick shot of winter weather to the mid-Atlantic region around January 10th or 11th. We're talking about the potential for a winter mix, maybe some wet snow, maybe some ice, in areas from Virginia through the Carolinas, right in the middle of what's supposed to be a warm pattern. God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? Just when we think we have the pattern figured out, he throws in a reminder that he's still in control. The meteorologists are scratching their heads. The computer models keep changing. But there's a divine order to all of this chaos. Now we're at minute 5. Here's what I promised you. Your specific timeline. If you're in the Northeast, you're cold now, you'll stay cold through January 6th, then temperatures spike. We're talking 40 to 55 degree warm-ups between January 7th and January 12th. If you're in the Southeast, you're getting rain now through Saturday. Then it warms up significantly. Temperatures could hit the 70s in Atlanta by January 8th, the mid-70s. In January, if you're in the Midwest, you're in transition. Cold air hangs on through the weekend. But by Tuesday, January 7th, you'll see a 15 to 25 degree temperature increase. Chicago could go from 12 degrees to 42 degrees in 36 hours. Western states, you're on a different track. Starting Monday, January 6th, temperatures drop. A deep freeze moves in. Mountain areas could see temperatures 30 to 40 degrees below average by midweek. But with that cold comes snow. Lots of it. We're tracking storms that could dump 2 to 4 feet in the high country. Here's your second reward point. And this is huge. The pattern flip everyone's been waiting for starts to show up in the models around January 13th. Not might start, starts. We're finally getting within 300 hours, which means the forecast is becoming reliable. But here's what makes this flip different. It's not going to be a gradual transition. The models are showing a rapid breakdown. The ridge that brings warmth to the east collapses in less than 48 hours. When high-pressure systems collapse that quickly, you get wild weather. Think about this for a moment. We live in a world where we can predict atmospheric patterns 10 days out, where we can measure wind speeds at 30,000 feet, where satellites give us real-time imagery of storms forming over the Pacific. Yet with all this technology, we're still humbled by the complexity of God's creation. The Madden-Julian oscillation, or MJO, is one of those complex systems. It's a pulse of tropical weather that circles the globe every 30 to 60 days. Right now, it's in what forecasters call the circle of death. That's not dramatic language. That's the actual technical term. When the MJO gets weak and disorganized like this, forecast models struggle. They can't lock onto a clear signal. It's like trying to tune a radio through static. You know there's a station there, but you can't quite get a clear signal. This is why the models keep shifting. One day they show a big trough, next day they show a ridge. It's not that the models are broken, it's that the atmosphere itself is in a confused state. But here's the good news. By mid-month, the MJO should amplify again, and when it does, clarity returns. Let me tell you something powerful. In times of uncertainty, people of faith have an advantage. We don't panic when forecasts change. We don't lose sleep when models disagree, because we know who controls the wind and the waves. The same God who calmed the Sea of Galilee is managing this atmospheric chaos. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Around January 14th, a strong ridge begins building over western North America. At the same time, a trough digs into the east. This is the complete opposite of what we have now. It's like flipping a light switch. When patterns flip this dramatically, you get transition storms. Big ones. We're talking about the potential for significant winter weather events across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, possibly even into the Southeast. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but the setup is there. The European model is showing a specific scenario. By January 15th, temperatures in the Northeast drop 30 to 40 degrees from their January 12th peaks. Atlanta goes from 73 degrees to 38 degrees in 72 hours. That's the kind of temperature crash that makes headlines. But here's the part that should really grab your attention. When warm air and cold air collide that dramatically, storms develop. Intense storms, we're looking at low-pressure systems that could rapidly deepen. What meteorologists call bombogenesis. That's when a storm's central pressure drops at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. Historical data shows us something fascinating. Every January for the past 18 years, there's been at least one significant pattern flip. God's creation follows rhythms, cycles, patterns. It's not random chaos. It's ordered complexity. And right now, we're watching one of those cycles unfold in real time. Let's talk about what this means for you personally. If you're planning travel between January 13th and January 18th, pay close attention to forecasts. That's the window when the pattern flip could produce travel nightmares. Not saying don't travel, saying be prepared. If you use heating oil or propane, now is the time to get your tank filled. Prices tend to spike when weather turns suddenly cold. Being ahead of the curve is both financially smart and practically wise. It's good stewardship of your resources. For farmers and ranchers, this pattern brings mixed news. The moisture we're getting now is excellent. But if you have livestock, the rapid temperature drops coming mid-month mean you need to prepare shelter and feed. Cold stress on animals costs money and productivity. Here's your third reward point. At 3 minutes 20 seconds, I'm going to show you the single most important weather map that explains everything. Not now. At 3:20, keep watching. Right now, let's talk about the lake effect snow machine. Lake Ontario's water temperature is 41 degrees Fahrenheit. The air flowing over it is -5 degrees. That 46-degree difference is creating convection that's lifting moisture thousands of feet into the air. When that moisture hits the cold air, it condenses instantly. Snow falls at rates of 2 to 4 inches per hour. Some of these lake effect bands are so intense they create whiteout conditions with visibility under 1/4 mile. Thunder snow is being reported. That's how unstable the atmosphere is. The snow burden on roofs in these areas is becoming dangerous. 2 feet of fresh snow weighs approximately 20 pounds per square foot. Older roofs. Roofs with structural issues. They're at risk. This is serious. People need to be aware. Now, here's something that connects this all back to faith. In moments like this, communities come together. Neighbors help neighbors shovel. Churches open warming centers. People share resources. That's the image of Christ in action. That's the body of believers doing what we're called to do. Southern states, your weather story is completely different. Beneficial rains are soaking into soil that's been dry. Farmers are rejoicing. Water tables are recharging. This is provision. This is blessing. Sometimes we forget that rain is a gift, not an inconvenience, a gift. But with that rain comes a slight concern. Tomorrow afternoon, across southern Georgia and northern Florida, there's a marginal risk for severe thunderstorms. Not a high risk. Marginal, but a 2% tornado probability exists. That means if storms develop, 1 or 2 could spin up brief tornadoes. The wind shear in the lower atmosphere is strong enough to support rotation. Storms moving in from the Gulf will tap into that shear. If you live in these areas, have a plan. Know where your safe space is. A basement. An interior room. This is basic preparedness. We're now approaching 3 minutes 20 seconds. The moment I promised you. The weather map that explains everything, here it is. The 500 millibar height anomaly map for January 14th. What you're seeing is a pattern meteorologists dream about. A deep blue trough over the eastern U.S., a strong orange ridge over the west, the jet stream diving from Canada straight down to the Gulf Coast. This is a textbook winter storm setup. When you see a pattern like this, you start thinking about historic storms, the blizzard of '93, the President's Day storm of 2010, the Gulf blizzard of last January. All of them happened when the upper-level pattern looked similar to this. Now, I'm not predicting a historic storm, hear me clearly. I'm showing you the setup, the potential, the possibility, but whether it materializes depends on dozens of factors that won't lock in until we're inside day 7. Here's what I can say with confidence. Between January 13th and January 20th, winter weather fans in the eastern United States will have opportunities. Plural. Multiple chances for snow. Maybe significant snow. The pattern supports it. But here's the conflict. Hope versus reality. Every winter, we hope for big storms. We watch the models. We get excited. And sometimes, often even, the storms don't materialize. They shift, they weaken, they miss. That's the challenge of long-range forecasting. Yet we keep watching. We keep hoping, because that's human nature. We're wired to anticipate, to plan, to prepare. God made us that way for a reason. That anticipation keeps us vigilant, keeps us ready. Let me share something personal. After studying weather for over 20 years, I still get excited when I see patterns like this developing. The joy doesn't fade. Because every storm is unique. Every winter is different. God's creativity is endless. The temperature gradient we're tracking is historic in its intensity. From northern Maine, where it's currently 5 degrees, to the Florida Keys, where it's 79 degrees, that's a 74-degree difference across 1,400 miles. When you have that kind of contrast, the atmosphere has no choice but to respond dramatically. Cold air is dense, warm air is light. When they meet, the warm air rises violently over the cold air. That rising motion creates clouds. Precipitation, storms, it's physics. But it's also divine design. The laws of thermodynamics were put in place by the Creator. Now we're moving into the part where I need to give you step-by-step instructions. Here's what you do. Step 1. Check your emergency supplies. Flashlights, batteries, water, food that doesn't require cooking. Not because I'm predicting disaster. Because preparedness is wisdom. Step 2. Fill your vehicle's gas tank. If power goes out, gas stations can't pump fuel. Having a full tank means you can travel if needed or run your car for heat in an emergency. It's a simple step that provides big security. Step 3. Know your forecast, not just the high and low temperatures, the actual weather pattern. Is it rain, snow, ice, wind? Different weather requires different preparation. Ice storms need one approach, blizzards need another. Step 4. Check on elderly neighbors, people living alone, those without family nearby. A simple phone call asking if they need anything can be life-changing. That's living out your faith in practical ways. Step 5. Pray. Not because weather is punishment, it's not, but because God invites us to bring everything to Him, including our concerns about storms, about travel plans, about family safety. He cares about the details of our lives. Here's something remarkable about God's design of weather. Every single storm system serves a purpose. They redistribute heat from the tropics toward the poles. They bring moisture to dry regions. They clean the atmosphere. They shape ecosystems. Nothing is wasted. The storm we're tracking for next weekend, the one that might bring that quick shot of winter to the mid-Atlantic, it's trying to tap into Gulf moisture. If it succeeds, we could see snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in areas that rarely see snow. I'm talking about places like Richmond, Raleigh, Charlotte. Now, the models are still working out the details. Will it be all snow? A mix? Mostly rain? The track matters. 50 miles can be the difference between nothing and 6 inches. But here's what's fascinating. While that system is trying to develop, the bigger pattern flip is organizing behind it. Think of it as a distraction. Your eyes are watching this little system while the main event is setting up backstage. By January 15th, the cold air damming begins. That's when cold high pressure builds over the northeast and acts like a refrigerator door. It traps cold air along the coast while the jet stream tries to push storms through. That's when you get big snow events. Temperature profiles become critical. If the cold air is deep enough, everything falls as snow. If it's marginal, you get sleet, ice, mixed precipitation. These are the details that determine whether you get a coating or a foot. Here's your fourth reward point. The best winter storm potential window is January 15th to January 18th. Write it down. Mark your calendar. That's when all the ingredients come together. Cold air in place, moisture available, jet stream positioned correctly. But let me remind you of something important. God's timing is perfect. Even when weather doesn't do what we want, even when storms miss, even when warmth persists longer than expected, His timing is perfect. We might not understand it, but we can trust it. The Pacific jet stream is coming alive. Storm systems are lining up like planes waiting to take off. Each one will bring moisture to the west coast, snow to the mountains, and cold air that eventually slides eastward. It's a conveyor belt of winter weather. California desperately needs this rain. The drought has been severe. Water reservoirs are low. This pattern change brings answer to prayer for millions. While the East hopes for snow, the West needs rain. God provides for both. Temperatures in the Rockies could drop to 30 below zero Fahrenheit by mid-month. -30. That's dangerous cold. Cold that can kill in minutes without proper protection. But that same cold air is what fuels the winter storms that move east. We're watching nature's balance. Extreme cold in one region, unusual warmth in another. Then the pendulum swings, the patterns flip, balance is restored. It's been happening since creation. It will continue until Christ returns. Let me show you something about blocking patterns. When high pressure parks over Greenland, it's like putting a boulder in a stream. The jet stream has to flow around it. That diversion sends the jet stream southward into North America. South means cold. South means storms. Right now, that Greenland block is weakening. But around January 13th, it tries to rebuild. If it succeeds, the winter pattern locks in for possibly several weeks. If it fails, we go back to warmth and rain. The models are still deciding which scenario unfolds. This uncertainty is humbling. We have satellites, supercomputers, decades of data, yet we still can't tell you with certainty what the weather will be 2 weeks from now. That should remind us of our limitations, our dependence on God. Farmers know this better than anyone. You can plan, you can prepare, but ultimately, you're dependent on weather you can't control. That's why farming has always been an act of faith. You plant seeds trusting God will send rain and sun in the right amounts. Modern technology helps. Weather apps give hourly forecasts, radar shows approaching storms, but technology doesn't change the fundamental truth. We're not in control. We never were. We're stewards, managers, but not controllers. Here's the storm pattern emerging for late next week. A southern stream disturbance crosses Texas Tuesday. It moves into Louisiana Wednesday. By Thursday, it's interacting with cold air over the Carolinas. That interaction is where winter weather develops. If the timing is perfect, if the temperatures are right, if the moisture is sufficient, you could see significant snow from Charlotte to Richmond to Washington, D.C. But those are 3 big ifs. Any one of them fails, and the storm is just rain and disappointment. Hope tempered with wisdom, that's the balance we need. Be excited about the pattern. But don't put all your expectations on one storm at day 10. Things change, models shift, reality often differs from forecasts. Now, let's talk about wind. When these pattern changes happen, wind events occur. Gusts over 50 miles per hour, trees come down, power lines fall. It's not just about snow and cold. It's about the violence of the transition. The pressure gradient between the departing warm ridge and the arriving cold trough will be intense. Pressure changes of 20 millibars in 12 hours, that's hurricane-force pressure changes. The wind responds accordingly. coastal flooding becomes a concern. When strong winds blow onshore during high tide, water piles up. Storm surge isn't just a hurricane phenomenon, winter storms produce it too, especially along the mid-Atlantic coast. We're approaching minute 12. The final stretch. Let me pull this all together for you. We're in a pattern transition. Warmth now. Cold coming. Storms possible. It's that simple and that complex. You've weathered transitions before. This winter already brought cold snaps, warm spells, rain events, snow events. You adapted, you adjusted, you'll do it again. Because that's what people do. We're resilient. But here's what sets believers apart. We're not just resilient, we're hopeful. Not blind optimism, biblical hope. The confident expectation that God is working all things together for good, even weather patterns. The snow falling in New York provides water for spring. The rain falling in Atlanta restores drought-stricken land. The cold air in Alaska moderates global temperatures. Everything connects. Everything has purpose. Let me give you one final set of statistics. The Climate Prediction Center is forecasting above normal temperatures for the eastern U.S. through January 10th. Below normal temperatures January 11th through January 17th. Then back to near normal January 18th onward. Precipitation is forecast above normal across the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. Below normal across the northern plains. Near normal everywhere else. Those forecasts carry a 60% confidence level. Not perfect, but better than a coin flip. Your 10-day forecast will change. Multiple times. Possibly daily. Don't let that frustrate you. That's how meteorology works. We refine forecasts as new data comes in. Each model run provides fresh information. Forecasts improve as events get closer. Here's my promise to you. I'll keep watching, keep analyzing, keep updating. When significant changes occur, you'll know about them. When storms threaten, you'll get advance warning. That's the commitment I make. But more importantly, here's God's promise. He will never leave you or forsake you. In storms or calm, in cold or heat, His presence is constant. His love is unchanging. Weather changes, seasons change. God does not change. So as we head into this pattern flip, into whatever January brings, do so with confidence. Not confidence in forecasts. Those will change. Confidence in the one who controls the weather. The one who numbers the hairs on your head also counts the snowflakes that fall. This winter isn't over. In fact, if the pattern flip materializes, winter might just be beginning. Real winter. The kind we remember. The kind that creates stories. The kind that brings communities together. Stay tuned. Stay prepared. Stay faithful. The next update will dig deeper into the specific storm threats. We'll look at individual model runs, we'll examine timing, we'll get granular with the details, because here's what's coming in the next video. I'm going to show you the exact setup that produced last year's historic Gulf blizzard. Then I'll show you next week's pattern, and you'll see the similarities. You won't want to miss that comparison. Until then, keep your eyes on the forecast. Keep your heart focused on faith. And remember, whether it snows 6 inches or 6 feet, whether temperatures soar or plummet, you're held in the palm of God's hand. Nothing catches Him by surprise. The weather pattern is shifting, major changes are coming, but the unchanging God remains constant through it all. Watch the next update for the specific timeline that affects your area. The details matter, and I'll break them all down for you. Stay weather aware, stay spiritually grounded, and get ready for what could be an incredibly active second half of January. This is only the beginning.